Hey friends, today I'm flying Singapore Airlines Business Class on the A350 Sydney to Singapore. I'm focusing on three things: how the food and service hold up out of Sydney, the onboard comfort, and whether the whole experience feels worth it for 8 hours. Before boarding, I stopped by the Singapore Airlines SilverKris Business Lounge. First thing, the coffee bar. They do proper barista-made coffee and I grabbed a latte. I love Australian coffee. Next, the buffet. It's a decent lunch and dinner spread with hot food spanning Singaporean to local Aussie. Beef pies, baked fish, roast beef, stir-fried noodles, curry, laksa, and chicken rice. There's also a cold spread of cold cuts, cheese, and a salad bar. And for drinks, it's mostly Aussie and New Zealand wines, plus spirits and the usual non-alcoholic stuff like tea and soft drinks. I did notice the bubbly today was a Tasmanian sparkling rather than champagne. I love local produce, but personally, I still prefer the real thing from France. This smells like cost cutting. I tried the chicken rice and the laksa. If you're Singaporean, manage expectations. It didn't really hit the mark for me, so I'll skip those and save it for when you land. In the shower? This is a necessity if you're coming off a long day. Clean, well stocked, water pressure was decent, and I felt refreshed after the shower. Alright, let's get on board. Once on board, I was greeted by the 2013 business class seat. There's plenty of lateral space, but it's still cozy in a good way. Boarding had just completed and the cabin felt really calm. I chose seat 22A, the last row, which I prefer for privacy reasons as there's less human traffic. The downside is there might be a crying baby in the bassinet behind you in premium economy. Pre-takeoff, they served the 2018 Piper Heidsieck brewed Granny Smith apples with a noticeable sweetness perception. The classic hot towel came next with the signature floral scent. It feels like I'm home, I gotta say. Scent anchoring is top tier marketing. This was probably the last month of the old safety video. It's all replaced with the new one now. I'm gonna miss this classic a lot. It's a glorious view as we roll down runway 34 left into the Sydney sunset. How I wish I was seated on the starboard side of the aircraft instead. The view of the Sydney harbour, lit up in hues of orange and blue, would have been spectacular. A little tip if you fly out of Sydney, take the K seat. If the runway direction favours you, you get treated to a beautiful view of the city. Shortly after takeoff, beverage service commenced. Champagne offerings are frequently rotated, and since it's a vintage pour today, I wanted to enjoy another glass. I was also offered a side of nuts. The crew noticed me filming and it sparked a little conversation. She offered to bring the bottle over and pour at my seat. A nice touch and a wonderful display of hospitality. I declined as I didn't want to impose. I prefer to maintain discretion even as I'm filming. The cabin was doused in purple mood lighting, and because we were flying towards the east, the sunset lingered for almost an hour. It was truly a beautiful sunset, like the work of a master painter. Not long after, my glass was running low, and to my surprise, the stewardess came back with the bottle and topped me up right at the seat. You get quietly spoiled by this kind of proactive attention on Singapore Airlines. It always feels like there's a genuine desire to make sure you are well taken care of. The atmosphere was relaxing, and it was the perfect time to sip champagne and munch on almonds and cashews. Dinner service followed shortly as the crew came to set up my table. For tonight's menu, we started with a fresh crab salad, finished tableside with quinoa puffs. Along with appetizers, there was an assortment of bread on offer. I went with the classic garlic bread, 2 of them in fact, as it's often a foolproof, flavorful option. I mentioned to the crew that I would like to sample 2 wines throughout dinner service, 1 white and 1 red. To start, I had a Craggy Range Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand. It was herbaceous and grapefruity, with a mouth-watering citric acidity. Visually, the crab salad looked more like a tuna salad at first glance due to its colour. But once I got into it, it was indeed pickled red onions, crab meat, and avocado. It's a smart combination. Sweet crab flesh, with the avocado lending the dish its creaminess, cut through with the acid and mellowed bite of the pickled onions. The greens and quinoa puffs added texture. Simple flavours and a very strong start. I washed the dish down with the Sauvignon Blanc, and my humble opinion, more straightforward wines often work well in the air. The flavor is punchy, crowd-pleasing, and it's just a good time in general. Oh, fun fact, Singapore Airlines wine list is curated by a panel of consultants, and 2 of them are masters of wine. They blind taste over 1,000 wines a year to decide what makes the cut. I trust they know what they're doing, and they have definitely accounted for how wine shows up at altitude. Next came the main course, the slow braised beef cheek with red wine sauce. As she was serving me, the stewardess told me that they made it extra pretty for me, presumably because I was filming the experience. What a sweet touch. Presentation wise, it looked lovely, nice stack height, very composed. The beef cheek also came with a side of charred broccolini, chive potato mash and glazed carrots. To be honest, this wasn't what I was expecting. Out of Singapore, they offer a similar dish as well, and I had it once the previous year. That one was excellent. The meat was falling apart and the sauce was beefy and umami. This one, however, the beef was dry and rubbery. Despite being slow braised, it wasn't falling apart. Heck, it wasn't even tender. The sinew was still tough. Look at the amount of force I was putting in just to cut the meat. The tray table was literally bending. This was probably the most disappointed I've been with the catering in a while. In my experience, the catering out of Sydney can be a hit or miss. But this one was just sad because the rest of the plate was actually fine. The sides tasted decent, the sauce was decent, the main star was the letdown. I finished it anyway. It did cross my mind that I should raise it with the crew for a replacement, but I guess it didn't bug me enough in the moment. If you ever encounter something like this, please raise it with the crew politely. They're often happy to swap for another choice on the menu if it's still available. As the service cart came by for dessert, the crew cleared my table and swapped my wine. This time, I went red, a 2022 Bordeaux from the right bank. Ripe plums and berries, but I felt the wine was a little closed up. The tannins also did not resolve well on the palate, leading to a drying and scratchy tactile sensation on the tongue and the gums. Not the most easy glass to drink. For dessert, I was given 4 options: lemon yogurt sorbet, apple pie with creme anglaise, cheese platter, and sliced fresh fruits. I got a little greedy and asked if I could have more than one. The stewardess smiled and immediately said yes. So I went for lemon yogurt sorbet and the apple pie. The apple pie was finished tableside with the creme anglaise, and I enjoyed that little bit of theatre. I thought it would be a good combination, pie plus ice cream. It did not disappoint. The pie was satisfying, cinnamony, and sweet with a buttery crust. The sorbet was aggressively acidic in the best way, sharp and bright but still sweet enough. I really enjoyed it, although halfway through, I did have that moment of, okay, this is a lot of refined sugar in one sitting. Not exactly healthy, but very delicious. For the last act of dinner service, I was offered a choice of coffee or tea and a chocolate praline. The praline was a nice touch, coffee was nutty and chocolatey, and okay commercial coffee. Post-dinner, the cabin lights were dimmed and the crew made up the bed. I managed to sneak in 2 hours of sleep. People often say this seat is hard to sleep in because of the footwell, but I personally had no trouble this time. Maybe I was just tired. Refreshment service came around near the end of the flight, and not everyone opted to have it, choosing rest instead. I had mine in the dark, sat cross-legged with the bed still flat. I picked the Singaporean carrot cake and it was amazing. Honestly, one of the best Singaporean dishes, and I'd recommend everyone to try this dish at least once. Singapore Airlines has been offering this Labo Business Class kit on flights longer than 6 hours, and it's usually on request. Inside, basil hand pomade, face mist, and lip balm. And I find it interesting that they don't use the Labo in the lavatory, offering Payo toiletries instead. Branding inconsistency if you ask me. As for the toilet, it's just another aircraft toilet. The only noteworthy thing is the motion sensor rubbish bin. For the entertainment system, there's a solid up-to-date selection of movies and TV series from all over. Realistically, you are not going to run out of things to watch ever. I'm still waiting for airlines to give us direct Bluetooth connectivity to the in-flight entertainment system. I'm not a fan of the provided headphones. The audio just isn't great, and I'd much rather use my own. As we begin our descent into Singapore Changi Airport, let me conclude with a story from the flight. During the resting period, after my seat was converted, I had a short chat with the stewardess, and somehow we ended up talking about food. She asked what I missed most after being abroad for a while, and I immediately said mincemeat noodles. It's a Singaporean noodle dish seasoned with vinegar, chili, sesame oil, minced pork, and meatballs. Messy and addictive. We ended up discussing our favorite stores, and it was just one of those quietly pleasant human moments. That's honestly what I enjoyed most about the flight. Yes, the main course was genuinely disappointing for me, but that feeling of being looked after, along with top-tier service excellence, that's the best part about flying Singapore Airlines. And that's not all. What really stands out for me is the consistency. This didn't feel like an isolated case of me getting one exceptional set of crew. Well, maybe it is, and if that's the case, then I've been absurdly lucky across a lot of flights. But I honestly think it's a culture of excellence. There's a baseline of service here where people notice, people care, and you feel taken care of without having to ask. Now, what about you guys? If you've had a memorable moment flying Singapore Airlines Business Class, I would love to hear them in the comments. If you enjoyed this, hit subscribe, and I'll see you on the next flight.